and does a lot of research at Rutgers. And the way that this will work, we're gonna have moderators for questions. We have a few questions prepared already that we're gonna ask you, and then we have our moderators will ask you questions from the chat, or if you'll have questions in general, so then you can talk about it. And yeah, if you can give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, what you do, etc., that would be great.
Okay, thanks, Rachel, and thanks for inviting me to meet you all. Like, this is a difficult time, right? Like everyone's stuck at home, no interaction with people. Um, okay, so are you recording? Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah, I started recording it.
Oh, okay. Okay, sounds good. So for people who are not seen me, like if you, there is a 50% chance that you will likely see me because I teach a required course for CH major, Compark. But apart from teaching Compark, I have other life. So I'm an associate professor of computer in the Department of Computer Science. I'm also the undergraduate program director. So anything related to your CS major, minor, honors, you likely see me. So let me give you a brief background about me. So I grew up in India. I did my undergrad in India. I did my PhD from University of Pennsylvania. I loved my PhD so much that I wanted to be a PhD student throughout my life. And being a professor in a reasonably good R1 research university would enable me to do that. And that's why I joined Rutgers about 8 years ago. My research goal is to make your programs run faster and correct. Okay, so I design hardware and software abstractions and principles so that your program runs faster. So I design compiler optimizations, hardware optimizations, and I verify your program. So I love math, so I translate all your program into mathematical formula. And if this formula is like true for everything, your program is correct for all inputs. And we have been doing it for critical pieces of the computing ecosystem. SSL, crypto libraries, math libraries, compilers. So name your favorite thing. So I also involve a lot of students in my research, undergraduate students. I do have a vibrant PhD program. So I have about 5 PhD students working under my supervision right now. But apart from PhD students, I also mentor a lot of undergraduates. Typically, my workload is about 3 undergraduate students working under my research supervision every year. So some of them have gone on to do really great things. Like last year, I had a student, Steven Zhu. He joined University of Pennsylvania for his PhD. I had 3 other students, Mihai Andrai. Some of you may know him. Like he's now at Amazon. A few others at very good places. So if you are interested in research, sometimes all you have to do is come and talk to people and be passionate, right? So everyone is interested. Like Rutgers is a very huge, right? Like we have 7,500 students who have some tangential interest to CS, but not everyone. Like being interested is one thing, but taking concrete actions to further your interest is the second thing that you need to pay attention to. So that's it. Like I can keep talking. I'll probably talk for the entire 1 hour, but that won't be interesting. I will be happy to answer any question that you may have.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start off. First thing, if you guys can, like you don't have to and it's not mandatory, but if you can turn on your cameras, that would be nice. And I guess our first question for today is there anything you wish you knew about grad school, or I guess while pursuing your PhD before actually getting into it?
So since I was an international student coming from India for my grad school, I knew everything because my parents did not have a lot of money. So I couldn't pay for US education when my parents earned money in India, right? So someone had to pay me. Fortunately, University of Pennsylvania gave me a full fellowship for my entire PhD. I paid $0. And even now, like I pay all my PhD students completely for their tuition, health insurance, and a nominal stipend. The stipend is reasonable enough that you can live happily, but you can't buy a Lamborghini, right? So it depends on what your expectations are. It's like probably like 5 or 6 times lower than what you would make as software engineer, 5 times smaller than what you would make as a software engineer at Google or any other place. But it's reasonable when you're trying to do something that you're passionate about. But you can make money after you graduate with a PhD. So what are the things? So one of the things that this is one thing I've realized in the last 8 years, right? Yeah, most US students, in contrast, don't know that PhD program is completely paid for. Like you don't have to shell a dime during your PhD. So this is something like I wish like I knew that most students did not know about this. I would have emphasized it a lot more. And the second misconception that people have is in most top universities, like carbon universities, professors are really research active. Like Rutgers, right? Like you see, like you take courses, you graduate with a nice diploma at the end of 4 years. But one of the cool things about Rutgers is there is a fantastic research program going on, and not many undergraduates make use of it. So being in an R1 university, I would strongly encourage like anyone considering a future PhD or graduate school in general to utilize your research opportunities in your undergraduate program. So these are a few things, but I can keep talking. Like let's get to like more directed questions, and then I can address more if there's time.
Okay. Hi, guys. I'm the second moderator. I'm the events director. So one of the other questions is, what is your area of research and why did you choose this area of research?
Awesome. This is a good question, right? Like, um, how do people choose research problems, right? So, and this evolves over time. Like when I was an undergrad, I was interested in number theory. Why was I interested in number theory? I was a student in India, like, and there was this fantastic result from IIT Kanpur, like primality testing is in polynomial time. And this had been a really long problem for many years. And this result like was like totally mind blowing, right? It won like complete many laurels throughout the world. And I was inspired by it, and I wanted to explore number theory. I studied number theory for 2 years in my undergrad, took a lot of math classes. And then I realized like, oh, there is networks, which is really exciting. I started working on networks. And during this course, when I finished my undergrad, like, oh, like there is this tool called compiler, which takes your source program and makes you run faster. So how does this compiler work? Like I want to understand it. And this is what set me on the path with compilers. And then I realized even if compilers are reasonably good, like programmers make mistakes. How do we ensure programmers write correct program? So can we use math? And this is how I chose research problems. And just last year, like 2 years ago, we have been writing a lot of programs, right? And what turned out was like you have all these math libraries, sine of x, cosine of x, right? And computing, and we realized that math libraries are not indeed correct. These are transcendental functions. Computing accurately is very hard. And last 2 years, me and my students have been building highly accurate math libraries for various representations. So if you have taken 211, you would have known about floating point, right? So how do you design accurate math libraries for floating point? This is a new research result from my group. So sometimes like you have to attack, like my advisor told me there are like 3 ways to attack a problem, right? One, you attack a problem that opens up an area, a new revolutionary area. You have to ask critical questions. So wow, what are the problems that you would attack so that you can open up an area? The second kind of problems that you can attack is there is a long-standing problem, but there is no definitive answer to solve this problem. So you can solve such a problem and close an area once for it. And the third problem is there is a lot of excitement in a particular problem, but people are taking small baby steps towards the eventual goal. And there is a lot of opportunity. You can attack such problems. And generally in research, you're trying to attack problems that may become useful 10 years down the line. And when you speculate the future, most likely you're going to be wrong. So you should be open towards it, right? That doesn't mean you don't learn something. Like every failure, you learn something. That is, there is a principle that you learn that you can teach to the world. And this is the key ingredient of research, right? So not everything you try turns out to be like amazing and successful. Even if you fail, there is a lesson to be learned, and you convey it to the world so that like someone else does not repeat the same mistake. So if all of us were trying the same thing and failing, like we wouldn't make progress. So this is like the key thing in research. Like it depends on taste too. Sometimes people get really excited by something that they can do, that they can show something, right, in few years. So the industrial research, they have a bottom line that they need to address. In 2 years, they need to have a product that will probably make money for the company or solve something that the company is interested in. So yeah, this is what industrial research does typically. If there's a compelling problem, I want to solve it in like a year. So in academia, one of the luxuries is like you can aim for something really ambitious. So just to indicate, like the result that we use to design math libraries is from 1934. There was this Weierstrass theorem in 1800s, and then there was an algorithm which was built by Remez in 1934. And today in 2020, me and my students are building on the shoulders of Remez to produce a new algorithm that is kind of like revolutionary. So this is what research is like. Yeah, no one does like everything by themselves, right? Like you're building on the shoulders of giants.
Okay. Our next question is, how do you recommend getting involved in research as an undergraduate, especially since we don't have like the knowledge that like a PhD student might have?
So this is so most of the time, like my philosophy when I hire undergrads is I want to train them so that they can become pretty proficient researchers. It's more as a service rather than and it's just not me, right? Like all most of my colleagues are like they understand undergraduates don't have the background. Okay, so even if you are a PhD student, even if you are a professor, you are the world's leading expert in an area, there are things you don't know. This is a fact of life, right? However, like there is no end to learning. This is one thing I learned from my parents, right? Till you die, like you will never have you. It's there's never a case that you've learned everything. There is no end to learning. You learn like you even if you work in a top company or even if you are a researcher, a world famous researcher, a Nobel Prize winner, there is something to be learned. So you should have an open mind to learn, and you should have the humility to understand that I don't know. Like I will learn, and what your undergraduate education and your specialization with a graduate degree and PhDs gives you this ability to learn anything. And so typically when you start as an undergraduate student, you don't have the background. So you need like hand holding a bit. So and this is where going and talking to a PI or a professor who has some projects, talk to them and see if I want to explore this. And they will generally give you background material to read. It will be hard. Ask the question. If you don't understand, there is no harm in asking them, like, can you please teach me? They will. But it should also be proportionally compensated with your own effort. Like no one can teach you everything, right? So the people are busy, people have their own agenda, right? But if you compensate, like if you show initiative to learn things on your own, what the professor has suggested, I think like if you invest a year of your undergraduate program to independent studies over a period of 1 year, you can definitely make a meaningful, a very small contribution to a body of knowledge. And in the past, like as I said, like I had an undergrad who worked with me for a year. He wrote a research paper, like a small research paper, like not like revolutionary and earth shattering, right? But like a small advance to a body of knowledge. In this process, he learned how the research is being done. How do you conduct experiments? How do you validate hypotheses? How do you advance? How do you solve a problem? So these are the things that you will learn. And this will go a long way. And so we have had history of like really amazing undergraduate researchers. Like I had a colleague, Abhishek Bhattacharjee. He's now at Yale. He had a student, Geet Sethi, who did fantastic research during his senior year, and he is now a PhD student at Stanford. And he also won. ACM has this CRA honorable mention for the research, right? He was one of the honorable mention students, like outstanding undergraduate researcher award. So I think there are opportunities. So the first thing, like, don't be scared, right? Like, you take a professor's course, or like you just drop by to my office hours. Like as an undergraduate director, express what interest you have. I will direct you to the right people. And I would say like just drop a note. Like if you're interested in research, like we can point you to the right people. So I'll tell you like my rule in hiring undergraduates for research, right? Rule 101: do well in my course. Show that like you have put in work in my course and you're interested. So I will help you out. Like, yeah, that's the prerequisite. And even otherwise, like let's say you got a B plus in my course, not an A. Like I give like at least 30% A's in my course. So even if you got a B plus, like I will give you some papers to read, some chapters to read. And if you show interest, like you can still make a dent, like you can still make progress. So I think like the key thing I would suggest is be open. There is RST program, which is amazing. You can apply. There is LSAM program, which is amazing. You can apply for minority students. And Douglas, I think Douglas College has another program which pairs first year students with a mentor. I think I'm forgetting the name, but those are all exciting avenues that you can explore. And that's it, like a simple word of mouth. Like you're already a Rutgers student, you go to a professor and say, I want to explore research, what are the avenues? They'll give you a lot of resources and you can go from there. Yeah, Project Super, as Helder has been suggesting, that's pretty good too. So I have mentored a couple of students from Project Super too.
Our next question is, how did you become interested in teaching computer architecture?
Okay, so I'm active in research. I could have taken like various other courses too. I don't just teach computer architecture. As a research active professor, I teach one undergraduate course and one graduate course. So the graduate courses that I teach have been computer security 544, programming languages 515, program verification 516, and I also taught 671. So these are the graduate classes. And every time my philosophy in teaching a graduate class is there are students who are interested in learning about a particular area, and can I design a career course that will make me learn and also make students learn. So that's how I offer graduate classes. And why do I teach CompArc? So CompArc is a required course for CS major. And one of the things I noticed is like in 111 and 112, people like don't really do like end-to-end programming. They write some programs in data structures, and they write some programs in 111, but they don't get a holistic view of like what is it to program, how is it executed. Like so CompArc is, in my opinion, a misnomer. Like we're not talking much about architecture. We are talking about what is the goal of CompArc. CompArc is to make you a better programmer, understand the system's abstraction so that you become a better programmer. So what does it teach you? It makes you understand low level details of how a program gets translated into zeros and ones that is eventually executed by hardware. And what role does what role do data structures and algorithms play in making your program get better performance? And that's one of the reasons it's a required course for CS major. And I want, like, my course is like people either love or hate it. So there is no middle ground, because it's hard, because I change my assignments every year. Why? Like, I should not, like, I hate when people use code from online sources. So let's not give any opportunity for students to use online sources. So that's why I change all my assignments. And one of the key things when I design assignments is I make sure students learn something new. So this term, like when I in one of my projects, I said, like, everyone talks about BFS, DFS, right? I gave them a problem where they implement shortest path algorithms for directed graphs, undirected graphs, and graphs with cycles and without cycles. And this is like people have learned all this algorithm. Now they have to translate all the learning they had done in 112 now into in the C language, and then implement BFS, DFS, implement Dijkstra's algorithm on top of it. It would be excellent, like for a material, excellent revision for all the stuff they have learned in 111, 112. So similarly, like, this is how I structure my course. And I don't know, like, will I be teaching comp or forever? No, maybe like you move on. But for now, like, given that we have huge enrollments and some course needs to introduce a bit of a serious rigor before they get into CS major, and I thought CompArc is the place where I can impart this rigor and at least, like, give incentives for students who want to learn seriously some material that will help them in their career. So this is one of the reasons I teach CompArc.
I think that's a pretty good reason. You convinced me. So From your teaching experience, I guess we would like to know, what have you seen in a student that makes them successful in the course or just as a CS major as a whole?
So this is a good question, right? Like success is very difficult to define. Like success is not just 4.0 GPAs, right? Success is not a FANG job. FANG is like Facebook, Google, Amazon, whatever. Like I'm just using the WSJ terminology. So the way I define success is intellectual growth. So so the way, what do I want from a CS major? Like the key requirement of a CS major are three things: problem solving skills. Given a problem, like people may just obfuscate the problem in various ways, but if you can you see through all the obfuscation and understand how to solve a problem? This is problem solving skills one. The second thing is abstractions. So at the core of everything, it's the abstraction that you need. And the third thing is how do you build an effective system, implement all, you put your ideas together and implement. So everything is assigned. So these are the skills that you would want to be successful. I would say, like, you, rather than like, sometimes like there are a lot of incentives for just doing the bare minimum required to get an A, right? So I would suggest, like, ask questions why, understand, rather than just like knowing the name of something, right? Oh, there is floating point. Doesn't mean anything. What is floating point? Why is it being done this way? So this why part is really crucial. So the emphasis is on understanding. The second thing is drive. Like you should be like, life is hard, right? Like there is no, like some people are born with a silver spoon, some are not. So it's hard. So, but how do you face? How do you learn? Like, yeah, don't consider like education as a race. I'm in a race to complete my degree in 2 years, right? Like, no. Like the goal is to get the best possible knowledge in the 4 years time period, and beyond, at least like try. Like I'm not asking you to try like 100 different projects and like spread yourself too thin, but at least try one or two projects that you're passionate about. Like it could be research activity or something else beyond like whatever is required for the curriculum. Okay, so these are the things, like what I look for like when I hire my PhD students is knowledge can be learned, but this willingness to do something, this is what I call as drive. And sometimes it's just intuition, right? Oh, this student has the drive, and this is how I hire students. And um and I think like this is what people, the Nobel laureate who won the Nobel Prize in chemistry in 2014 said, right? Hard work is like compound interest. You put in 5% better than 5% more work than the best world's best person in you won't have much knowledge than the world's best person in a day. But if you do this consistently over a period of time, let's say 5 years, you will have twice the knowledge of the next best person. So I think be consistent. Like think of acquiring knowledge as a marathon. You're not sprinting 100 meters, right? Like sometimes like you need to dial up, like you need to get into the rhythm, right? You can't run marathon out of the blue, right? So you have to build, you should do endurance testing and then eventually run the marathon. So I would think, go with an open mind. Don't be carried away or like scared by jargon. Like everything is simple, and there is beauty in learning something, understanding the principles behind something. So Richard Feynman said, like there is no value in knowing the name of something. Like you are like a knowledgeable person only when you understand why, rather than just knowing. So like people say data science, right? What is data science? Like the linear regression, logistic regression. Understand what it is, then you'll learn a lot more. So this is what I would emphasize, like drive and genuine sincerity towards your work. So this is all. I think like I again take everything I say with a grain of salt, because I am heavily opinionated, and I'm just like stating my opinions and what worked for me and what worked for the students I have mentored, over the last 15 years.
So one question from our chat from one of the members is, what is your opinion on undergrad students going straight into a PhD program? What would you recommend?
So there are pros and cons. So I went straight from my undergraduate program into my PhD. So it worked like because and again like it'll be different because government of India sponsored my education during my undergrad, subsidized my education, and US government sponsored my PhD. So so I didn't pay much, so I was not under debt. Um, so if you go to a private school here in the US and you have 250,000 debt after your undergraduate degree, then it may make sense to work for a few years, pay off your debts, and then go back to grad school. So sometimes working in a company, getting a general idea of what are the challenges that real developers face and real people who build systems face is a good experience. But you can also acquire this by doing internships at these places. So it really depends on the person and their individual choices. So I have had students like I went directly from my undergrad to my PhD, but my PhD students, in fact, like they worked like someone worked for like 15 years and then came to do a PhD with me. Others work for 3 years. Some others work for 2 years. So it depends. I would suggest uh, all PhD programs, don't join a PhD program that is not fully funding your tuition, providing you a stipend, and providing you health insurance. I'm a bit dismissive of master's programs. So, like the reason is this: you can always learn the course material. There is Coursera, edX courses which offer all these courses. Like you can audit them, learn the material. What will master's program, like a master's degree, get you something? And moreover, if you're already going like 60K or 70K into debt by paying for your master's degree, it may be worthwhile to go and work for a company and then see if your company is willing to sponsor your master's. So I think like it depends on the individual life situations, individual trade-offs that the student has to make.
Okay, our next question is, what's your favorite memory from your time as a professor at Rutgers so far?
So can you repeat it again? Sorry.
What is your favorite memory from your time as a professor at Rutgers so far?
Okay, so there are lots of them. Uh, so um, let me start with research stuff, right? Like the best memory is like I had my first PhD student, David Menendez, who is an instructor here at Rutgers CS. He was my PhD student, and his thesis won the world's best programming languages thesis award in 2018. And he was my PhD student, and that was like I was a junior professor at that time, and like we had this nice idea, and like that was really joyous. Like we did cool work, but we never expected that his dissertation would win the world's best dissertation in the area of programming languages. Like it's called ACM SIGPLAN Doctoral Dissertation Award. So that was like really mind blowing. From a mentoring side of it, like I had a student, like let me tell you an anecdote. Like there was this student in my 211 class, I think 2014 or 2015. I think she was really struggling, but I saw the student was really good. Like you see this drive, right? Like the student is great. I think she got an F in my class because like CS211 is hard, right? If you don't come with a right background, uh, it's sometimes really hard. And I like she came to my officers, like I tried my best to help her, but given her course load, given her various things, like she got an F. Like I told her, like I think you are much better than an F. I think like you will be an A student. Like you just like were overwhelmed. And so I was teaching the spring term again, CS211. I let her attend the course, CS211. And if you do all the assignments, do the exams, and I will substitute the grade, whatever you got in this spring term, for whatever you took for the fall. You don't have to register again. And this student attended each of my lectures, all my 26 lectures, did all the assignments, and she was the highest. She was among the top 10 students of the entire class, and my class has 250 students. And she told me like she's now like in a very good company, doing really cool things, cutting edge computer science stuff, and like influencing society. And this has been the real gratifying moment. And I'm like not taking names primarily because I have to preserve privacy rights of the students and various things. But this was like, I think like one moment, like as a teacher, like, so I'm a research professor, right? Like I do research, like that gives me like claim and fame and various other things. But I'm also a teacher, like as I want, like if you're making one impact to society, like you're mentoring, you're talking to a lot of students, and if I am successful, I would have inspired at least some of you to pursue a career in CS and be really successful. If I do that, like I think I've accomplished my job. And this has been a really gratifying moment for me. Like, and I've had like similar such success, but this student's case stands out because she was like, if like we just go by the GPA, if you just go by the background, like this is a student who would have been overlooked. And this was like really exceptional. And this has been like, so sometimes when like research always fails, right? Like you do like a lot of things, like this is a fact of life, right? Like sometimes something like you come up with really cool ideas, some days you have really bad days, you come up with nothing. But what keeps me going is like I'm making an impact, at least as a good teacher to some students. And I have had the fortune of working with amazing mentors. They have helped me shape my career. My goal as a teacher is to repay this back to society by helping few students. I don't know whether I'll succeed or not. Time will tell me.
I think based on the anecdote, I think you've succeeded already.
Well, no. So I think like so these are like there is serendipity, right? Like accidental luck. So and then there is genuine sustained contribution over a grand period of time. So these are small specks of droplets in a large ocean, right? So to have a meaningful impact to society, we should sustain it for a longer period of time. And one of the reasons I decided to talk to you all is I hope to encourage you all to do well in your career, pursue a major in CS, and attain a name and fame for your own life. Like, so I think like being successful does not mean like doing X, right? You should have a satisfaction of having achieved something. That is what is much, much more valuable than XYZ that you want to show for, right? So if you attain, like if you think you have made best use of your abilities and have done the best possible thing that you could, then you have attained success. That's my definition of success. So I think I would encourage you all to again push yourself. Like how do you build muscle, right? So you have to go to the gym and exercise. So first day you probably lift 10 pounds. A week later you will lift 15 pounds. And there is a point that you can lift, right? Like you can't lift 10,000 pounds. So you lift whatever is comfortable to you. So this is how I would structure my um, advice, right? So do your best and attain the best possible, do the best possible thing that you can with your abilities, and always push yourself. And the advice that I got from my mentors was with research and with education, with career, everything was a delicate balance between ambition and satisfaction. So if you don't have ambition, you don't do anything. And if you're always like frustrated, then like life is miserable. So life, I think, is like a delicate balance of ambition and satisfaction, contentment and ambition, drive and contentment. So this is what I encourage all my students. And like I meet a lot of students as an undergraduate program director, and some of them are really overloading themselves, right? Like taking like 20 credits and insane amount of work. So you don't have to overload so much. Take reasonable amount of credits, but do a good job with it.
Okay. Our next question is kind of to get to know you more outside of class. What's one thing you do outside of teaching, just for like enjoyment?
so this is pandemic days, right? So, but before pandemic days, like all my students would find me at the squash court. I'm a pretty good squash player. I used to play almost 3 or 4 times a week and pretty intense sessions. Like some of the undergrads used to play with me. I'm a good racquetball, reasonable racquetball player, but I also play squash. So those are the main things that I do, that I used to do. So I also a pretty good sports fan. I love soccer, and growing up in India, I like cricket, so I watch them. I follow them with people. Of late, like I have a toddler at home, so I spend most of the time having fun with the toddler.
Our last question for the day is, if you could pass on any wisdom to your students, what would you share?
Okay, so that's a very general question, right? So if there is any wisdom, so I would say like there is no substitute. You need not be the genius. Like there is this myth of a genius, right? I think that is like overblown. Like the society just wants to make you believe there is a genius. But I would say what you need is uh, reasonable background, reasonable knowledge, and persistent hard work, and that will take you far along in your life and career than uh, just being a genius. So I think so that means like everyone has hope, right? So don't give up, and just sometimes you just need, and people like it's just like it does not hurt. Like for people specifically at Rutgers, go talk to professors. Like if you are interested in something, like and beyond just talk, like show concrete effort. So I think like these are the few things I would say. But if there are specific questions, like then I can keep talking.
That was actually one of the questions just shared to us, and it was pretty general, but it was actually our last question. So unless anyone in the audience has any more questions, feel free to use the chat so we can ask them. But would you like to say any finishing words to end today's interview?
So I think so I would say like this is a good cohort. Like I think we are getting like amazing set of students. So Rutgers is a very large place, so it's easy to get lost. So I would suggest if you are just lost, like always like come to my office hours. Like I'll be there as an undergraduate program director to talk to you. And we are all human too. Like uh, so it need not be just course related questions, right? Like it could be like something like, oh, I want to go to grad school. Like how should I structure my application? I want to like this is my like I'm interested in algorithms, or I'm interested in complexity theory. What should I work on? So it could be anything related to CS, or even like for other stuff like dean of students may be the appropriate person. I will direct you to the right people who can address your issues. So I'm only qualified to address issues related to CS, right? But there are people who are much more qualified than me who can address other issues, and but I can direct you to all of them. So it's just not me. When I say I can, so it means like any faculty member in the CS department. So you just have to be just ask and build a cohort. Like I think you also learn a lot from your peers. So I think this is a fantastic experience. Like learning from peers is a good thing. Also podcasts and just like knowledge. This is like a one-way transmission, right? I keep talking and like you keep listening. What would be much more exciting for a peer learning effort would be like you participate in like there is programming contest, like ACM online programming contest. Like you say you put together a team, you try to solve them. Like you may not like even it's not necessary that you are in the top 5, top 10, top 100, top 1,000, right? Like it's just the fact that you tried and try to solve a problem, you will learn. So I think just keep an open mind.
I guess if no one else has a question, I have one. Sometimes like it can be hard, right, when you constantly get rejected or you do like poorly on a lot of tests. How would you recommend keeping up your drive even in a situation where it seems like there's like no hope?
So that's an important question, right? Like, so the unfortunate thing in society is like we only flaunt our successes. We don't flaunt our failures, right? So no one talks about the failures. So everyone fails. Like it's not just like some of us are pretty lucky. Like we know what we need to do, so they try to mitigate some of these efforts. But like at some point in life, everyone fails. So have a good support group. Like this may be your friends, parents, family, or whatever. Like have a good support group. Like because you need good support groups to so people have ups and downs, right? To get over these ups and downs. So the second thing, like keep it like what is it in the big scheme? Like one test, like you got a 10 out of 100 in one test. Like what is it in the big scheme of things? That's not going to judge you, right? Like come on, like everyone, like even like if I'm sleep deprived for 10 days and I write a test, like I'll do poorly too. So that's just human nature. The second thing is like there is a lesson to be learned from every failure. So a retrospection about why you failed, so that you don't repeat the same mistake going forward, is an important lesson to be taken. And again, like one of the reasons you feel like a failure is like you're evaluating yourself to other peers, right? So like you are an individual person, you have your own unique strength. Like this is what I tell all my PhD students, right? So every student has a genuine skill that they don't know what they're good at. Like there is a skill like which is unique to you, but you don't know what it is. Now like during your PhD, what during your education and during your career, what you realize is you understand the skill that you're genuinely good at. And then you take you get into endeavors where you will utilize your skill and make a name and make a career. So this is what I suggest. Like rejections are common. Like in contrast to saying like, oh, I won all these fellowships, I won all this. Like people fail. Like people actually get rejected. And even now, like when I submit a research paper and they reject me, like it affects me, right? Like I'd be joking saying like, oh, I just take rejections out of them. No. So, but how do I mitigate it? The way I mitigate it is like I don't submit if the work is not ready. I wait it out till the work becomes ready, and then like you like and it also means sometimes one of the reasons is like if you're taking like K courses and you're overloading yourself, then you don't have enough time to spend on each of them. That is one reason I see why students don't do well in the test, right? So time management, like you have to do well. There is okay, how do you like divide your time so that you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. So I think how minimize the effort, like in the sense effort has in not like effort towards growth, but minimize unnecessary distractions in some sense, and set your workload sufficiently reasonable so that like you're not over exhausting yourself. Like taking like 3 CS courses, like all CS electives is kind of really hard. And if you're taking like 3 project intensive courses, like unless you're really good, you understand all the materials, it may become like a pretty nightmarish experience, right? So plan your schedule properly. And this is why talking to an advisor, talking to people would be useful.
So one question from the chat from one of our members is, do you recommend any good books for computer science students for any areas within computer science?
Well, like I do recommend a lot of books. So one book that I want every student to have on their desk is Introduction to Algorithms by Corman, Lyserson, Rivest, and Stein. So if you take 344 or like the algorithms class, you will read algorithms. But this is a book I recommend all my undergraduate, all the students who come and talk to me to start reading from year one. It's a fantastic book. If you can solve all exercise problems, I think you should get into any company of your choice. So this is one good book. Like you should definitely do this. And then there is like I love Concrete Mathematics. Is a very good book. That's another book that again depends if you're interested in math. Introduction to Algorithms, all CS students should read it because extremely important. So Automata Theory, Michael Sipser is a good book to learn about like various foundations. And Linear Algebra by Gilbert Strang. Like I think his YouTube lectures are amazing. So listen to Gilbert Strang's linear algebra lectures. It will be very useful. And many of the, if you're interested in machine learning and other things, this would be like really, really handy. So these are some books, like, but I can keep going. Like it depends on how many books you want, how much space in your bookshelf is, right? So
What did you say? I mean, who did you say was the author for the algorithms book that you suggested?
so this is let me see if I can find the book here. Like it's in my office, but not here. So Introduction to Algorithms by Corman, C-O-R. Like let me type it out. I can also put like an Amazon link. Um, so you should get all these books in the library, so you don't have to buy. Some of these textbooks are exorbitantly priced. So I'm just putting it out on the chat for people. This is Introduction to Algorithms. Like this is one book which I really liked. And again, this is like, again, personal bias, right? So during my first few years of undergraduate, I wanted to do algorithms research. That's why I started reading algorithms, and this book stuck with me for a very long time. But there are like really nice books, like just drop me a note, like so Calculus of Computation is like, how do you like, how each program is actually mathematical logic. And there's another book by Perdita Stevens. This is a really good book. If you, I think I would recommend everyone to read it. So How to Write Good Programs. This is a very recent book. There is a Kindle edition available too. So let me put the link to. So I think many people write programs, but they don't take the right precautions, right abstractions. So this is How to Write Programs is a pretty good book. She's a professor in Edinburgh or Oxford in the UK.
I have one more question. So
Yeah.
when choosing your PhD program, what were some of the things that you considered? Was it like what the school was known for in terms of its research areas or something else?
Okay, so this is a really important question. So right, like, so when you apply to PhD programs, like if you go to CS rankings, you'll see Rutgers is ranked 23rd. So then like which program is ranked one? Like maybe CM Carnegie Mellon or MIT is ranked one. So would you go to MIT or would you go to Carnegie Mellon? So why don't you go to Carnegie Mellon, right? So so I think it's good to have very good, like what do you get in a PhD program? A set of peers who are trying to solve similar problems. So you learn a lot from your peers. Having good peers is amazing. So you should go to a reasonable school where you get good peers. But beyond peers, one of the key important attributes in a PhD program is your advisor. Because you're going to spend 5-6 years solving a set of problems with your advisor. And you want an advisor who can nurture you. So who can take you from like, you're a raw talent, and how at the end of your PhD, you're world's leading expert and a polished researcher in a particular area. And this requires, some students require like total independence, like they know what they want to do, they just need like space to do that. So, and then like it does not, advisors probably may not matter for such students. There are other students who want to be led step by step. So you need a lot of nurturing from the advisor. In those cases, like having the right advisor is important. So in my case, like I had, like when I applied for a PhD, I had like offers from almost all the top places that you could think of. So I had Michigan, I had Georgia Tech, I had UT Austin, and various other places. I chose Penn because I spoke to Milo Martin, who was my PhD advisor, and Amir Ross. Like they were the two people who were trying to hire me, and I found a rapport with them. And I had this intuition that I'll be successful if I go there. And sometimes, like history just re-emphasizes your intuitions, right? So right now, if I look back, that is one of the amazing decisions that I did. So having a good rapport with your PhD advisor is a good thing. So, and because like you would want your advisor to both give you enough freedom and also curtail you when you're like just leading astray, right? So like you want to have like you want to be curtailed when like you are going on tangents which without any results, and you want to be given freedom so that you make like concrete progress and explore and paths that probably people have not taken before. So I think I would say like this is where word of mouth and talking to people who are active in the research area will actually help. And I think like we have had like amazing set of mentors like Erika Kai, like one of her Rutgers alums. Like she's a PhD student at UMass Amherst. I think she worked with Erika Lender, one of my colleagues, for some time. She worked with me for a term a couple of years ago, but her heart was in complexity theory, so she's doing research in complexity theory right now. So there were other students, Arwa Alhawat. So she is, I think maybe she has joined Rutgers for a PhD, but she also was one of her students who did research as part of the undergrad. So it depends. Like, um, I think like you should find a good, like if you think sometimes like you're also making a guess, right? Like appearances can be deceptive. So so working with a person, like you'll know like, oh, they're really intense, like, oh, this is not what I want. Like, but having a good general overview of what you would get, what you should expect would be a good thing.
So I think those are all the questions we had from all our members and attendees today. So just on behalf of all of WICS, our members and board, we want to thank you so much for coming out and answering all these questions. And I know it's the middle of the semester and it's midterm season right now. So this is like a really nice, needed talk of inspiration from you today. So
yeah, awesome.
Thank
But
you
like
so much for coming out.
one thing that I enjoy as being a faculty member is talking to students like you. So if you have any questions, just like drop me an email. Like my email is, you know, my email. Like, and you'll find it everywhere. And I'm just telling you all other students, like I'm very quick to responding emails. Like as long as like it needs, like if you just ask me where is my quiz, like, oh, go to Piazza and find it, right? So if you need any help like with your program, and like sometimes people are struggling, people are like making amazing progress, I want to challenge myself. Like I will give you my opinionated view of what are the challenging courses that you should take. And if you're struggling, I can give you some remedial action that you can take to still further your program. So again, so I will say, like, as I told you, like I'll be really opinionated, but I do hope like all my students do well. And so one of my goals is like to build like enough diversity in the CS program. So right now, like for whatever reason, we don't have enough female computer scientists in CS. We don't have people of color in CS. So this is like just perception problems at some level. So people think computer science is just sitting in your basement writing some code, right? That's not true. So I think like all the efforts that you are doing in dispelling these myths about CS is a good thing. And so do contact me if you need any help from me or my colleagues to help recruit more people to CS. So there are two goals, right? Recruit more people, like increase diversity in CS, and then also retain this diversity in CS. So even if they take like, and then they get like really scared of CS and they drop out, that's not a good thing either. So we will be happy to help you. Awesome. So do you need anything else from me?
I think that's it for today.
Awesome. So I will disconnect the call now. Have a good day. Good luck with all your midterms. And it's an intense time doing remote education. So things will get better. Don't be scared. And if you need any help, like with your courses and other things, talk to the CS advisors, talk to me. So we will try to help you out.
Thank you.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Thank you.
Also, guys, quick thing before you leave, if you haven't filled out the attendance form, I'm gonna send out the link again. Oh no, wait.